Her lungs burned, and yet she still kept running. Cate was not even sure what was chasing her at this point, except that whatever it was, it definitely wasn't friendly. Trees passed by in a blur like some kind of demented flipbook. As the creature gained on her, a root in the earth tripped her up, and she tumbled violently down a slippery bank. She crashed her way out of the forest and unceremoniously fell face first into the mud. As she lifted her face off the ground, the moon shone, bright and full. This bright light reflected off the river that she had fallen next to. Of course, she could follow the river to safety. She looked up, thinking there might still be a chance for escape. She heard a clamor behind her and knew that her options were limited. Quickly scanning the embankment as she ran, Cate remembered that there was a treehouse nearby. Cate spun her head around frantically, taking in her surroundings. Yes, the platform was still there if she could just reach it. Claws swiped through the air at her back, prompting her to run faster than she ever had in her life. Arm outstretched, Cate desperately grabbed for a branch and immediately began her ascent. She silently hoped that this thing didn't have thumbs to climb. As she cleared branch after branch, she heard it scuffle in frustration at the base of the trunk. With one final heave, Cate plopped unceremoniously onto the wooden platform. Noises of bark being torn from branch and sinister growling almost stopped her heart. It began to dig into the tree with its claws. Suddenly, it started to climb. With no time to think, she reached into her pocket to pull out a small piece of white chalk. She had heard from her aunt that drawing a circle around you could protect you. As she closed the circle, the thing slid back down the trunk. She waited. She dare not look down at what was below. She was afraid if she did, something bad would happen.
Hey, whatever God is up there, if I make it out of this, I promise I'd do the dishes and be nice to my little brother. I promise.
She whispered to the whipping wind. The snarling sounds had stopped. Moments that felt like hours passed by as Cate tried to catch her breath. All of a sudden,
Honey?
a soft voice beckoned from below.
Honey? Are you up there?
She froze.
Mom? Is that you?
She whispered, confused. Of course her family would be out looking for her. They must have chased that thing away, whatever it was. She was safe. Cate automatically started to make her way out of the circle when she noticed.
Honey?
Something sounded off about the voice.
Cate, your father and I are worried sick.
She couldn't quite put her finger on it, so she decided to stay put for a second.
Honey?
The voice got harsher and deeper. Whatever this was, it certainly was not her mother. Cate began to shake. What was this?
Honey, honey, honey.
The voice below began to sing-song to her.
Go away!
She managed to squeak, covering her ears and huddling up.
Go away, she says. Go away?
Cate started to whimper. Why was this happening to her? Was it because of the warning her aunt gave her about the forest? The tween had been told so many times not to go near the forest at night. She remembered it clearly, her wispy aunt standing in the back kitchen door, looking out over the field that creeped out right before the forest line.
Aunt Kay, what are you doing?
Cate remembered asking.
There are spirits out there, Cate.
Spirit?
Yes, and they do not like us being here. It's their land, not ours.
Cate looked around at the cardboard boxes and unpacked kitchen supplies.
Cate, please be careful. Don't go out at night, please.
Sure.
Cate balked.
Ah, dear child, what will I do with you?
She handed her a piece of chalk.
If you must go out, be sure you have this. Never go anywhere without this. Promise me.
I promise.
The memory faded like the edges of a yellowed photograph. This was her punishment for not listening to the grown-ups.
Not fair.
She frantically thought. Cate stopped to listen. She slowly unclasped her ears and took a deep breath. The noises seemed to have stopped. Perhaps the thing below had grown bored with her?
Hey, Cate!
A familiar voice chirped.
No!
Hey, Cate!
She all but shrieked. It was mimicking her best friend now.
Hey, come down and play!
Stop being a drama queen and come down. I'm bored.
The voice of her brother complained.
Sweetie, we're all waiting for you. Just come down here now.
Her not mother cooed.
Come on, lamb chop.
The nickname her father gave her.
You're making us late for dinner. It will be cold.
if she doesn't come down, does that mean I can have all of her stuff?
Her brother teased.
Stop it!
Stop it! Stop it, she says!
The voice of her best friend mocked. She inhaled sharply as it continued.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
She felt like she might burst into tears at any moment. The voices coalesced into a cacophony of screams and laughs and otherworldly noises. This torment was something straight out of hell. Cate began to rock herself back and forth on the creaky wooden planks. Until it all stopped at once. An unnatural silence blanketed the air. Cate held her breath. Soon there was mumbling Cate could hear at the base of the tree that grew louder by the second. This voice began to speak. It sounded farther away and more sinister in nature.
Don't you want to see what I look like?
Aren't you curious?
The guttural voice called.
No! Why can't you leave me alone?
It's too much fun.
Come on, one peek couldn't hurt.
She didn't know why, but for some reason, maybe a guardian angel was warning her, but she instinctively knew that she could not look at this thing.
You're never getting out of here again.
The last thing you'll ever see is the whites of my teeth.
And the red of my eyes.
As the hours went by, Cate lost track of the voices. At times, it sounded like there was a whole chorus of people down there. Sometimes, just one.
Join us!
Join us!
Join
us!
Cate.
Cate!
Cate!
After some time had passed, the dark of night began to change. Cate's eyes had almost frozen open from the biting fall wind. Tear tracks stained her cheeks as she looked up to see the first small ray of light touch the earth. She breathed a deep sigh of relief. Somehow she knew in her heart that this meant she was safe. Violent rustling had started below. She still dared not look down yet, until she heard the brush moving aside, leaves being tossed carelessly as whatever it was padded off, slinking back into the dark depths of the forest. It would always be there, though, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. Cate took a few deep breaths and peered over the platform just to be sure. It was gone. Shakily, she made her way down the tree, muscles locked from huddling tightly all night. The walk back was plodding, as her legs had fallen asleep. They felt like jelly whenever she took a step. But as she drew closer and closer to her house, she felt more grateful to be alive. The wind lightly tousled the leaves on the trees. The sun began to warm the earth. The birds sang along as they built homes for their families. She had taken it all for granted, but never again. Home. She would be there soon. Out of nowhere, a cold chill ran up her spine. A thought crossed her mind. What would she find at home? Those voices weren't really her friends and family, right? What if something similar had happened to her parents? She pushed her legs to sprint, even though they were sore. As she drew closer to the small cabin she called home, Cate saw her gentle mother hanging out the laundry, and her somber father reading the paper in his rocking chair. Her little brother hitting the side of the barn with his toy sword. They were safe. She started to run towards the house. A noise! She turned and...